As you guys heard, I only have about 2 hours to get through this, so I will jump right in. My name is Cameron. I'm the founder of Tada AI. Quick show of hands. Who loves talking to customer support? We have one. Great. That's more than normal. So why is that? Well, customer support is expected to know absolutely everything in an organization. And that's even at extremely large enterprise organizations, and it's not feasible. So as a senior director, I spent almost 40 to 60% of my time every single day answering questions over and over again because it was so challenging to find documentation and where it's managed. In addition to that, my employees spent hours every single week searching for documentation in Box, Google Drive, email, etc. You can imagine that, and I'm sure you guys go through that yourselves. So if we could make it easier to find information, we could make the customer support experience better for everybody. So let me back up for a second and give you a quick overview of us. My name, like I said, is Cameron. My co-founder is Ariane. We both have entirely different backgrounds. So he is an engineer by trade, worked at Palantir, worked with building out search for some companies or organizations you might have heard of, like the Cal DOJ and the Department of Homeland Security. He also was a lead engineer on an AI acquisition before AI was cool. And my background is entirely in sales. I built go-to-market for multiple divisions from zero to millions of dollars in ARR. I led a 60-person sales division and then worked directly under the founder and president of a $4 billion company. Right. So let's get back to the problem. How do we make it so that customer support is better? If we make it easier to find information, we can solve the problem. So where do we see the future going? We expect over the next couple of years that when you search for a query, you'll be able to search all of your document storages, Box, Teams, Google Drive, Gmail, etc. And you'll be generated with an AI response along with all of the relevant documentation. Now, in addition to that, once you solve that problem, you can start to generate email drafts. You can give relevant information. You can even make API calls. And that's a ton of information. So let me actually talk through real quick. On the right here, you can see an email that came in. We read it, extracted out the questions. We're able to search the documentation, find a relevant answer, and then generate an AI written response. Now, in addition to that, we can also extract out tasks. So imagine if someone asks to reset a password or add a new user or even ask for a trial account. All of this can be done instantaneously. And so today, what would end up happening is this email comes in, it gets forwarded to multiple people. We've all been there, right? 48 to 72 hours response time. Somebody goes, they find the answer to the question, they write up the response, they go in the system, they add the users, they do all of that other information. And then 20 to 30 minutes later, they've completed it. We're doing that in 10 to 20 seconds. Right. So where are we starting? Well, we're starting with payroll companies, and we'll get to why in just a second, but we believe even just in terms of payroll for customer support, there's almost $90 million in ARR there. Right. So why payroll companies? Well, most payroll companies aren't well differentiated. And while I haven't mentioned it yet, I spent the last 4.5 years selling payroll and trying to maintain customers. And customer support was one of the biggest things that we did. We would actually call their customer support team that they're with, call our customer support team that we were with, and show that our team answered faster than theirs. And the amount of deals that won was crazy. So not only would making customer support help the bottom line, right? It makes companies more efficient. It lets you have less customer support people and do more with what you have. But additionally, it'll give you a ton of room to decrease your #1 driver of growth, which is churn. We think for larger companies, this could be on the order of millions to tens of millions of dollars to their bottom line. Right. So why now? Well, I was just going to put 2 letters on this slide, but really AI is making all of that possible. We don't think that this would be possible without it, obviously, and any company that doesn't start to implement this will not be successful in the future. So who are our competitors in the field? We have a few competitors that are working on enterprise search, on AI and customer support, but there's really nobody working on that end-to-end. And so what we're seeing is we're helping not only from the start, right, talking to the customer and the employee, but everywhere in between past that. So you have the talking to the APIs and integrating everything on your end as well. And none of the other companies are focused on that. So we think a holistic approach where you can actually work end-to-end with AI is going to be where the future goes. All right. So financial goals. We started back in January of this year. We closed our first deal for about $1,000 in ARR a couple of months back. And as of yesterday, we got an LOI signed for $57,000. Hopefully that'll go live in the next couple of weeks. Now, we have 2 partnerships that we're getting really close to finalizing, both of which are exactly in our target demographic and will help launch our ability to hit these numbers. We think with either one of these opportunities, we could hit $2 million run rate alone, but with both of them, we should be entirely fine. All right. So what are we asking for? We're looking to raise $250,000 inside of a SAFE with a 20% discount. Now, while I won't go entirely in depth in here, getting security reviews and audits is a huge thing that is preventing some of the deals or at least stalling them. So pause there. Thank you for your time and open it to questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. So I'll give you a little bit of feedback, and then I'll jump into the questions. I think you did great, but there's a couple of things I would have liked to see. I think you started out really engaging and packed a ton of information. You did one of the things that I really like companies to do usually, which is, and this is not whether it's a 6-minute pitch or an hour conversation, it's just to focus on the problem, not focus on the solution. I think most entrepreneurs tend to sort of be focused on what they're building and what they're doing, rather than the issues that the audience maybe has or the problems that they're addressing. And I think by starting that way, by engaging people and then talking about the problem, you got my attention and probably the audience attention. I think you also did well, set credibility for your team. It's a 6-minute pitch, so like you got to do this in 20 seconds, and I think you did that well. I like where I started to get lost, where I started to get into questions is when you're starting to get into the body of the meat of the presentation. I was looking for your differentiation. So you mentioned AI, which seems like everybody, like half the people here probably are working on some AI solution, whether they're inventing it or not. So that's not enough. You did mention payroll, so you narrowed down the field. That's one good thing. But I'm still waiting to see what it is that makes you different or unique, or what it is that is going to allow you to stand up, above the crowd. I think it was good for you to sort of present the chart with the competitors. But honestly, looking at it, other than the fact that it's end-to-end, and I'm not really sure why that's beneficial, I don't get the real benefit. So a little more focus on what it is that you do that is different, and a little more emphasis on making sure that the audience understands the point of this slide, I think would have been a good thing. And I'll sort of stop there and let Mark jump in.
Yeah, well, let me just pick that ball up and run with it. It's like, how many people in the room, if I asked you to stand up and explain why payroll first, would feel confident to answer the question in front of the whole room? Like, who wants to answer why payroll? So I think you missed, that's the mark you're missing. Yeah. If you started at the beginning with payroll, here's why payroll, maybe because that's where you come from, and that's a good reason, by the way. But I think that's where you're missing it. Like, I kind of think I get it, but I don't even know if I'd want to stand up and explain to you why payroll. So it could be you plus something that you learned in that sales role, and that's what you want to, that's your 6 minutes. So I would like rewrite the paper on that versus, I like all the, like your ability to kind of smooth into the conversation. Like, you're a very personable, relatable, connectable person. So you don't have to work on that. Just work on like nailing the dive. Because if you do like these 6-minute formats, as we kind of joke, are like very few and far between. But in life, like sometimes, you meet someone, you meet Lister out at something, and you have 4 minutes. Like, you want him to understand why payroll.
And have that and have that next conversation. So I think you have a hook. There's a reason why you're doing these things, but you just didn't let it out. Because I think, hey, I was like, oh, payroll, interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me more. But I think your rush to get this all done in 6 minutes makes you sort of skip some things that I think are important.
Yeah, just to add to that, like that's all. Like I don't know how many times I've done this here. Like I'd say 80% of the time, we're like couching the comments with the 6-minute format.
Yeah.
But it's a cool format because it forces you to exercise that really tough skill to develop, which is like crisp, tight. Why payroll?
What's important?
Yeah, and then like so like the second derivative to that idea is like, you really want to hook. I think you want to hook an investor more on technical and product milestones first, and then financial. So like, whatever the guidebook says, great. Like as an investor, I'd rather you talk to me about, here are the 3 things I learned as a something exec. Here are the 3 things my product is going to test, and we're going to get those things, those capabilities built and launched in this first phase. So I need $250,000 to build this thing that's going to test this idea. And then you're onto something. Then you're like, okay, cool. What are we collaborating on? We're gonna learn how to increase, I don't know, customer service, payroll customer service throughput by 20%, because AI is going to lift their productivity. Now we have a business problem to talk about versus this thing. Like what? Oh, Zendesk. Ooh, Zendesk. I know what they do. Like that's scary. Do I want to invest in someone competing against Zendesk anyway? Yeah.
I will sort of so put some color though into what Mark said, that to take you into a little bit of a different direction perhaps, which is, I agree with him. However, sometimes an entrepreneur has, sometimes the differentiation is to go to market. So it's not the technology itself. In this case, for example, I don't know how you feel about this, Mark, but AI, like honestly, it's going to be difficult for you to say, yeah, my AI is better than so-and-so's. Like, really? So, and that is part of the challenge here. The capabilities, my mind goes, okay, what companies do I know that can do this? And I already know some. Yeah. The question to me is, has he found a niche that he can tackle differently? Does he have an advantage in the go-to-market strategy? Do you have a set of relationships that is going to give you an edge? All you're really looking for is a window of opportunity to get a leg up on the competition and then just grow, I think, at least. And so, but I agree with the fact that the numbers early on are not that meaningful. But in this slide in particular, I think what Mark said is exactly right. I look at Intercom, I look at Zendesk, and I'm like, like how are you going to compete with that? So it's actually a negative to me, because unless you turn it around into a positive, and there's something here that you can take advantage, I'm sure, that you feel, but you got to let it out.
Yeah. I think the big difference is focusing on the custom API integration. So a lot of customer support is actually spent not inside of internal systems. So you can think of like your actual product, and no company is integrating with their product. They're integrating with all of the other bigger products like Google Drive and Box. But customer support itself is actually spending a majority of their time inside of internal systems. And so that's actually where a big time save is.
Yeah, I'm not saying you need to do this, but like for you and anyone else in the room at this early stage where product is kind of catching its gear, it's like, why payroll? Quick little like day in the life of a payroll customer service person, just so, because I don't know what that is. And if I can see those 2 things, then I can relate your product and your idea. Actually, it's really your idea and how your idea becomes a product to like solving a problem. And that's like seed, early seed investing, whatever you want to call this. Like, hey, can I have 250 grand to run an experiment for 6 or 8 months? Yeah. That's pretty much you want your investor to kind of have that relationship with you. The relationship between entrepreneur and investor needs to be about, we're on a 6 to 8 month discovery on 1 or 2 or 3 tops things. Yeah. Not your grand vision of 10, 15 years from now when you sell to Zendesk. Like that's cool, but like that's for 3 years from now. Now is like, you're going to get that safe note closed because there's 1 or 2 things that your investor and you are going to work on and optimize towards. I just think you're missing, like I think you have it in here, you just have to get it out.
Yeah. So why payroll? Yeah.
So payroll companies are just very poorly differentiated, and customer support is the #1 reason for churn within payroll companies. And then the second most reason is cost. And so by fixing customer support, you're effectively decreasing their number one lever for churn, and you're also being able to decrease the cost of the product without decreasing margins because you're decreasing payroll costs as well. So, yeah. And it's an extremely, extremely challenging industry. Like, there is tax laws in every single state, inside of every single county, inside of every single municipality, and so
That's my only bias in payroll is like it's so complicated. It's like tax prep. Like it's like there's a 1,000 pages of regs. I thought that's where you were going.
So, you have extremely high turnover in an extremely complex industry, and payroll is just very, very challenging to understand all the customer support information.